Holy crap. So, when I posted that Persona 5 analysis, it was simply a side project, something I made because it was a subject I was passionate about and my way of adding something meaningful to the conversation. But my god, as soon as the afternoon I uploaded that video, my inbox exploded. Apparently you guys really liked that video, so here I am with another one, going way too in-depth with another way cool RPG. Let's dive in, look deep, and rip off Game Explain one more time, and see what we can learn from the brand new teaser trailer for Terraria Otherworld. For those of you who don't know, Terraria is an open-world crafting and collecting game, not unlike Minecraft in many ways. Terraria's main differences, however, were easy access to all of the item blueprints right off the bat, and a huge emphasis on combat and bosses. Terraria Otherworld, as the name implies, is not a sequel per se, but an alternate world scenario in this game's universe, where, according to the website, the player is put into a life and death scenario to restore a once pristine world, which is now overrun by a malevolent force that has corrupted nature itself. And that word is important. Corrupted. You see, aside from the standard biomes like jungles, deserts, and underground caves, veteran Terraria players will tell you horror stories of a place called the Corruption. This is a biome where everything goes to hell. Cthulhuoid monsters patrol the skies, and are more than willing to munch on any unprepared adventurers that wander into their territory. The Corruption also has a unique trait in that it's one of only 3 biomes in the game that can grow bigger, encroaching on other areas and transforming them into more corruption. Because of this, priority number 1 in a new world is to contain this stuff as soon as possible, either by surrounding it with stone or creating a 3-block wide gap between it and any place you don't want to be touched by it. This is much preferable to trying to beat it back with items like purification powder, and once the game enters hard mode, the corruption gets even more aggressive. That indeed seems to be what we're dealing with here in Terraria Otherworld, albeit on a much bigger scale. The environment has that same purple hue that the Corruption is known for, backed up even further by the mutant versions of what appear to be devourers encircling the player character at one point in the trailer, which are unique to that environment. But what stands out is this screenshot from the official website. The Corruption never affected zombies before, and certainly didn't cause trees to develop bulbous growths like that. And then there's the matter of this device we see near the beginning of the trailer, the one with the crystal banging its parts together. See, Terraria has always been in a very interesting position in terms of theming. It has no problems offering you chainsaws and guns in a world where people still swing around swords and chug potions like soda pop. Still, by opening with something this clearly artificially made, alongside a backdrop that, aesthetically at least, appears this alien and foreign to anything we've seen before, is a definitively strong shift in tone for the series. There have been alien and futuristic elements in Terraria before, but that refers to the meteorites, which, visually at least, have nothing to do with what's going on here. Not to mention every shot in this trailer appears to take place at night, indicating that either the day cycle hasn't been implemented yet, or something's gone wrong on a cosmic scale. This could simply be the effect of what happens when corruption spreads to this level for a lengthy amount of time, but without official confirmation, there's no way to know for sure. Whether this threat came from above or was just left unchecked, we'll have to wait and see. No matter what the source is though, I think we have a good idea of how you'll fight this invasive entity. Take a look at this screenshot. See this curved blue line that cuts into the house and distorts the image of it? Now follow that down into the ground. See how where the circle starts, the corruption ends? And look here, it's the left side of it, but that's the same machine from the teaser, generating what appears to be a force field that the corruption can't enter. In fact, when the player character walks out of this field in the teaser, there's a tugging effect, where you have to push your way through the wall of the safety bubble around you. It's the same in this screenshot here. Where the force field begins, the ebon stone ends, and normal stone can be seen in its place. And what's at the center of this field? another crystal, just like the one in the machine. You can even see this effect in the logo of the game, with normal stone and grass surrounding the crystal, and the corruption growing worse the farther from the center we get. At this point, it's fair to assume that these crystals will be a fairly sizable portion of your main objective in Otherworld, and maybe once they're up, you'll have to protect them from more powerful threats like bosses. Either way, the site promises that to beat this game, you'll have to harness weaponry, magic, we'll expand on that one in a second, defenses, and even, this is the important one, the world itself. Maybe that's why we see a crystal in the player's inventory in 3 out of the 4 screenshots on the site. Maybe you'll have to set up these machines yourself in the overworld? Just a thought. And that transitions us neatly into the gameplay analysis, which contained 1 or 2 neat little details. And bear in mind, this is pre-alpha footage from the prototype, so it's all subject to change as development continues. First off, your stats. The original Terraria started you off with 100 health, but that seems to be split in half here. Now you start with 50 health and 50 mana, starting you at a disadvantage durability-wise, but giving you much more options in terms of tools you can use and resources available to you right off the bat. The reason this is important is because vanilla Terraria did not give you any mana to begin with. You had to forge items called mana crystals out of fallen stars to even get access to that kind of power. Again, this could just be a detail they added for the proof of concept, but if the final game actually does start you off with mana already available, that could hint at magic being a much more important and integral resource this time around. Something that's used so much that you need access to it immediately for the sake of player convenience. If these crystals serve the purpose we think they do, you might have to use magic to activate them, or maybe even drop in from time to time to help them keep their luster. You might even have to build your magic meter up to have the power necessary to create even bigger crystals that purify an even wider field. Because of all this added flexibility that magic offers, the lower starting health might be seen as a balancing trick, but it could also be a thematic choice, emphasizing how you're at a disadvantage in this world. But it's the particular values they chose that are curious. 50 each. As stated before, in Terraria, you always started off with 100 health and no mana, but each time you extended your capacity, it was always in increments of 20, maxing out at 400 for health and 200 for mana. That's why setting them to 50 in this game is so, no pun intended, odd. This might be foreshadowing that the numbers are going to be toned back a bit in this title, possibly lowering progression in each stat to 10 at a time, and maybe capping around 100 or so for each. And I'm not opposed to this. Don't get me wrong, it is really cool seeing gigantic numbers in front of you when playing an RPG, specifically the famous 9,999. But if games like Paper Mario have taught me anything, it's that simplifying the variables can also have its own unique charm. It makes it a lot easier to do the math as you go, and helps keep your attention on the game as opposed to some kind of mental spreadsheet. Again, some people dig that, but I don't think going in the direction this number is hinting at is inherently a bad thing. The site also promises we'll be teaming up with a ragtag group to complete our objectives in this game, and one screenshot shows 3 of them hanging out on the roof of a building. They aren't full shots, so we're not 100% certain who they are, but based on the NPC sprites from the original game, we have some educated guesses. Based on the plain long-sleeve shirt and pants, the guy in the middle is probably the guide, the character meant to teach you about the game if you ever find yourself stuck or not knowing what to do next. However, the other 2 are a little harder to place. The one on the left has huge boots and a striped shirt, while the one to the right has a bangle and fairly plain clothes, like the guide, neither of which match up to any non-playable characters from the first game. This leaves us with 4 possibilities for who they are, with Otherworld being set in an other world. These could all very well be reimaginings of the character designs, explaining why they aren't immediately recognizable. The second option is that they're entirely new NPCs, who serve completely different functions than the ones we've already met. What functions could those be? Well, that's part of the third possibility, and the most interesting in my opinion. Out of all 3 of these characters, one thing in particular stands out: the bangle. That's an accessory, remarkably similar in appearance to the shackles or bands from the original game. If this NPC really is wearing some kind of item, that could mean they act as an AI companion character, not unlike a minion. They'll follow you around, help you dig, help you fight, and even have their own inventories and equipment slots. This would be amazing for two reasons. Not only does it help solo players by giving them the benefit of company without having to find other people, but it also adds a bit of a strategy element to the game, trying to maximize your resources and direct your crew in such a way so that you can build resources more efficiently and tackle your challenges with greater confidence. You might even start to build relationships with these people, getting to know them as characters and becoming legitimately sad whenever one dies. And then there's the most boring and plausible possibility, which is that they're all player-controlled characters as well, but hey, I can dream, can't I? Alright, enough speculating over screenshots. Let's really dive into the trailer itself. First off, let's discuss equipment and inventory items. Several different characters, both in the teaser and the released images, are wielding shields. Now, shields were in the original Terraria, but you didn't get them until much later on. They counted as accessories, and visually, they were equipped on a totally different part of the body. However, here, not only are they more prominently displayed on the camera side of the character, but right off the bat, there's a much bigger variety of them, ranging from impressive angelic and demonic variants to a standard wooden circle. This could imply that shields will take up their own equipment slot this time around, but even better, this could hint at the idea of equipping an item in each hand, opening up the possibility for dual wielding. And there are a lot of arms to dual wield on display here. I've grayed out the repeats in this image to help highlight the individual items, but over the course of the teaser and all 4 screenshots, we see 5 different swords, 3 bows, 2 hammers, an axe, a ham axe, which combines the functions of both axes and hammers, dirt blocks, glow sticks of both the normal and sticky variety, a crystal, an arrow, a pickaxe, what appears to be a spear, stick, or maybe even a magic wand, a net of some description, rounded stones of some kind, what seems to be either a fang, a nail, or a placeholder image for a healing potion, and a partridge in a pear tree. First off, in this build of the game, gold seems to be the preferred metal of choice for equipment that has no special function, or isn't part of a set. We can see a gold short sword, long sword, bow, and pickaxe throughout these shots. The only tools that don't follow this trend are the axe, ham axe, and the 2 hammers. However, I think they serve different functions at this point. The smaller hammer with the same handle as the ham axe is simply there to be combined with the axe for now, as a way of testing the crafting system. Other than that, we've got this huge looking primitive sword and what appear to be divine and fiery blades, probably forged from the same stuff that makes up the white and red armor sets respectively. This is even reflected in the bows as well: gold bow, divine bow, and dark bow. Now let's get into the stranger items on here. This net shows up in a few different shots, but 1, what is it? And 2, why do we need it right now? If it's a cobweb like you could find in the earlier games, why do you need so many of them? And why implement them this early in development when you're just trying to put something functional together you can show as a proof of concept? We thought it might be a climbable, placeable meshing for a while, but we tossed aside that theory pretty quickly, both because of how ragged it looks and because something like that is usually made of rope, not twine. We also thought it might be a net of some sort, an alternate weapon used to slow enemies but not necessarily hurt them. But again, this seemed like something too extraneous for this point in the game's life. Perhaps they are cobwebs, which, again, are being used to help test the crafting system, serving as a temporary, universal resource as opposed to things like ore. But it's this little vial here and the round stone objects that are puzzling me the most. I still stand by the idea that the vial is a lesser healing potion, but the stone is what gets me. I don't have the first clue what this thing might be, nor what purpose it serves. I only know 2 things: that due to the reasons I've mentioned already, it serves some kind of important function, and the fact that it's on the hotbar instead of in the player's inventory suggests it can be actively used in some way, but that's all I got. Perhaps looking at the enemies will give us a better idea, and there are a few of them to be found. Aside from the super devourers we've mentioned already, in this shot, before the camera fades, we can briefly see 2 new foes, what appears to be a white, shambling zombie and a golem. Maybe the stones came from one of these guys and are used to test the looting system? We also see this thing later on, a spider-like insectoid with 3 eyes, a huge torso, and itty-bitty legs. I'm gonna call it a crawler for now. And based on this shot though, there might be more quirks to the crawlers than just skittering across the ground. Look to the right of the player character. See this little bugger that looks like a worm with gills? That's not an inconsequential critter like the butterflies from Terraria 1. Not only does it run away from you, but when it gets a comfortable distance away, it fires a projectile at the character. The fact that it has the same exact color scheme as the crawler, though, has me curious, especially when the rest of the corruption enemies all have such unique and varied designs otherwise. Maybe this is some kind of mini crawler that spawned into existence by the big guy. They're not very durable, in fact you could probably smack them away with one hit, but they tend to play the zoning game with projectiles while the big dude lumbers towards you. Their job is to be quick and annoying, his job is to be tough and tanky, and that's going to be a really interesting combo to try and deal with. And unfortunately, there's not much left to say about the rest of the details here, but they're worth pointing out nonetheless. In the scene with the character in green armor, we can briefly see the purple zombie entering the screen from the left. Concerning the scene with the fiery arrows, my only question is, how did he know he was being attacked and where to stop? There seems to be no visual indicator of where the arrows are coming from, and the only visual cue we have to where the safe zone is the fact that they seem to fall in equal distance from each other. So if they always start behind you, that might be just enough visual indication to avoid getting owned. However, considering the character is also holding a bow in this scene and has already taken a little bit of damage, I'm pretty sure this is just a dev firing their own arrows into the air and showing off, especially considering the screenshot with the zombies shows the same kind of arcing arrow heading towards a group of enemies while the character is sporting the exact same armor. Lastly, one more thing worth mentioning. Do you notice something unusual about the scene where the character is just standing there and letting the Devourers tear him apart? Maybe the fact that he's standing perfectly still? There are no other shots where damage is taken, but if this is anything to go by and it's not just a passive bonus of this particular armor set, it means the guys at Relogic have removed the element of player knockback in this game. You have no idea how grateful I am for that. And that is absolutely everything I could find in this trailer. Like last time, I'd like to extend my thanks to GameXplain for being the sole inspiration to do these analysis videos. If you like this kind of thing, definitely check them out. They mostly do Nintendo trailers, which after the Creators Program debacle, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, so yeah. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and maybe consider subscribing now that I'm committed to doing even more in the future. Also, if you like RPGs, consider checking out my previous analysis of Persona 5, and maybe even the latest episode of FNU Rants, where I recently talked about some bad habits of the indie community and how we can fix them. No matter what you do though, thank you very much for watching all the way through, and hopefully I'll see you again soon with some more awesome RPG trailers and all the little details hidden within them. Until then, I'm Whatthefnu. Later, everybody!